Hi, everyone. My name's Todd. I'm your host for The Laundry List. Welcome back. How was your week, guys?
It was good.
Can't
It was
complain.
a good week.
Yeah?
Great week.
Yeah, we just waited outside for 30 minutes, so and luckily it wasn't very hot out, but I was starting to get irritable, and I'm like, okay, what's the big deal? It's not even hot out, and it's just amazing. But I listened to the podcast today that we had from last week, and my wife Alex was on it. I was a little nervous to listen to it, and it was spectacular. What do you guys think about the podcast we had with Alex?
It was interesting to see two people discussing things that had obviously some synergy, some chemistry. You guys came alive on that. I enjoyed it. I've listened to it twice.
Right.
I really did enjoy that. To watch it was even more exciting, to watch it unfold before us, right? Because what we're talking a lot about is relationship issues, right? We're talking about how we behave today differently in our current relationships than we did in the past. And just see two people talking this topic for everyone to hear. It was the first time I've seen something like that. I enjoyed it.
My favorite part of the podcast was when she said, I think every woman has this dream of having this knight in shining armor come and save her, and he's going to be everything she dreamed about, and he's going to sweep her off her feet, and he's going to be super attracted to her, and he's going to make her feel like $1 million. And then she finds a guy and ends up he's just as flawed as she is. And like, I love that. Like, that's raw. It's real. It's like, yeah, you have this image like how relationships are going to be perfect, but when you really get down to it, it's like there's just two flawed human beings doing the best they can. You know. So we're going to get started here in a minute, but before we introduce our guest, I'm going to have Charles read The Laundry List, which is the name of our podcast.
It is, and it goes even deeper than that. These are the character traits that we believe listeners of this show, if they demonstrate any of these, they'll take advantage of what we discuss here. And the first one is, we became isolated and afraid of people and authority figures. 2, we became approval seekers and lost our identity in the process. 3, we are frightened by angry people and any personal criticism. 4, we either became alcoholics, marry them, or both, or find a compulsive personality such as a workaholic to fulfill our sick abandonment needs. 5, we live life from the viewpoint of victims and are attracted by that weakness in our love and friendship relationships. 6, we have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, and it is easier for us to be concerned with others rather than ourselves. And this enables us to not look too closely at our own faults. 7, we get guilt feelings when we stand up for ourselves instead of giving in to others. 8, we became addicted to excitement. 9, we confuse love and pity and tend to love people we can pity and ultimately rescue. Ever done that? Yeah, you have. I know you have. 10, we have stuffed our feelings from our traumatic childhoods and have lost the ability to feel or express our feelings because it hurts so much. And this is also known as denial. 11, we judge ourselves harshly and have a very low sense of self-esteem. 12, we are dependent personalities who are terrified of abandonment and will do anything to hold on to a relationship in order to not experience that painful abandonment feeling which we received from living with sick people who were never there emotionally for us. 13, alcoholism is a family disease, and we became para-alcoholics and took on the characteristics of that disease, even though we never picked up a drink. And finally, para-alcoholics are reactors rather than actors.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you, Charles. Blake, I'm going to have you introduce our guest today because you have a relationship with her and know her. So please tell us like how you guys met and what you know about her.
Yeah, so this is Katie. Katie, thank you for coming on our podcast. We met through a mutual friend at dinner, and I think we shared a little bit of conversation of, you being here in Scottsdale and, you being an influencer and you kind of going on this path of self-improvement and, you found yourself in LA and, we'll elaborate on that, not happy and, you had all these likes and this fame and, you weren't happy in your own skin. So, I wanted to have you here on the podcast so we can kind of talk about some of that stuff and, yeah.
So welcome, Katie.
Thank you. It's my very first podcast, so
Congratulations.
I'm happy to be on. Thank you for having
We
me.
won't be too hard on you.
We'll see.
So why don't you tell the listeners where they can find you online, social?
So right now I'm mainly on Instagram. My Instagram is just KDub. That was like my name in high school and all the sports I've ever been in. So that's mainly where you can find me at right now.
KDub on Instagram.
Instagram, yeah.
Well, welcome. When I first met you and we got chatting, I asked you what you did, and you said I'm an influencer. I've never. Let's see. I think I've only met one or two influencers that said they make their living as an influencer. But tell me a little bit what that's like, how you got started, and do you enjoy it? Is it hard, et cetera, et cetera?
So before I was an influencer, I lived in Santa Barbara and I was a waitress, which I really loved. I'm a super social person. I'm feeling a little shy right now, but I'll open up as we get into it. So I loved that job, but I would always document what I was doing. I was going to the gym. I was traveling with friends. I was always going to baseball games. So I kind of picked up a following as I was just being a waitress. And then I moved back home to the Bay Area, became a cocktail waitress again. And then over time, I got invited to go on brand trips. So I'd go to Cabo, I'd go to Bali, I would go all these different places and meet these girls. And we would cross-pollinate our followers. Kind of like they would post me, I'd post them. We'd do all these fun things. And then before you knew it, I almost have 800,000 followers now. So
Wow.
yeah.
Well, we can cross-pollinate with me. I have 18 followers, and 2 of them are my parents. But I'm not a big social media guy. I was for a while, but I just found myself looking at really hot Instagram girls and go, okay, this isn't good for my marriage and my relationship. So tell me about how. So how do you make money as an influencer? Do you get paid by the brands? Do you get paid, like, how does that work?
So in theory, a brand would contact my agency and they'd be like the third party in between, and they would offer, like, if Katie posts one post or a story, we'll pay $6,000 or we'll pay X amount. But currently I'm doing something a little bit more taboo. So
Get a little closer to the mic.
yeah, right now I'm doing something a little bit more taboo. So
We like that word on podcasts,
Yeah.
by the way. 'Cause
We're addicted to excitement.
Tell us more.
Yes, yeah. So I have an agency. So I have like a spicier site that I do off of Instagram. I try to keep it kind of ad free. And so that's kind of how I make my main source of income at the moment.
And can our listeners find you on that too?
They can, but I've kind of like, I've taken it off Google, so they can
Okay.
only get it through a link. Yeah.
So if they go to their Instagram, you can find the link there.
I actually took it out of my bio. So I kind of try to have like separate lives, kind of like my Instagram is pretty clean, and then I make my source of income separately.
Got it.
Yes.
You're asking for a friend, right, Todd?
Yeah.
I'm asking for a friend.
You're asking,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. My dad wanted to know. Okay. So I just find this whole social media stuff so intriguing. I grew up in an era where there was no internet. When I was, how old are you?
26.
Okay. Well, there were cell phones when I was 26, but until I was like 21, there was no cell phones.
Oh, wow.
So literally, like, I'm in college, high school, I need to get a hold of someone. Like, I stopped at 7-Eleven or Circle K and used the payphone and called their home. Like, can you imagine a life like that? Like, there's no communication, there's no cell phone, there's no internet, like
No Amazon.
No Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean, my life was so different. So it was like very in the moment. And now it's like almost it's for me, and I'm 54, it's almost like overstimulation. Mm-hmm. It's like, wow, there's like, I mean, once I get going on TikTok or Instagram, I'll look at my watch, I'll be like, it's like 2 hours later. Mm-hmm. It's like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
It's like crazy, you know? But I'm fascinated by Instagram. I'm fascinated by influencers. So do you screen like your brands or people that you would promote so you don't just promote anybody?
Never. No, I've only worked with selectively maybe 5 to 10 brands my whole Instagram career, just because I'm really focused on creating an authentic presence rather than just being a sellout. I think that's really unattractive. And then if I were to ever create my own brand, I would hate for them to not trust me and just think that I'm pushing product towards them. So I'm very selective.
And have you thought about creating your own brand?
Yes.
And what are you thinking?
I'm not sure yet. Lately, I've been, I wear a lot of trucker hats and I go to the beach a lot when I'm in LA. So possibly something about that, but nothing I'm passionate, so I wouldn't want to produce anything.
Not a makeup line or a...
No.
Do you know, I owned a makeup line when I was your age.
Really?
When I was 26, I owned a makeup line. It was called Makeup Forever in the U.S. I owned the U.S. version of Makeup Forever, and then we sold it to Louis Vuitton. But it was fun. I did it to like meet women and like get dates, and then as soon as I bought it, I got engaged. So I'm like, okay.
The gig is up. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's great. So this podcast is about relationships. So we're going to get into a little bit like, what's your relationship like with your parents, your siblings, your friends when you were growing up? What does it look like today? Do you have a boyfriend? Do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? So, we'll just kind of get started with all of it. Wherever you want to start, you can drive where you want to go.
I think that Blake and I maybe have touched on this before at Toca Madera when we had dinner. So I grew up with separated parents. When I was 3, my parents separated, and my dad was the more financially stable one, and my mom would kind of jump around and rent house to house whenever the lease was up, and then my dad always owned homes and would just kind of so I had like rich dad, poor mom kind of dynamic. So there was a power struggle that always kind of happened, and I have a younger brother. My dad's very athletic, and so am I. So we really bonded in that sense. And then my mom was a little bit more struggling because of finances, so we didn't bond as much. So that's kind of how the base of
So
everything.
did you live with your mom or dad?
50-50. So the custody would just be 50-50.
And did you find you were closer to your dad when you were young?
Yes, because of sports. So we would we'd play catch in the backyard, but he's pretty how do I say, like abusive, kind of verbally, emotionally.
So he's got a temper. He's a hothead.
Yeah. Yes. So then that's where we would like separate, and my mom would help and the balance.
And why do you think they got divorced? Like when you look back?
My dad just isn't that kind, and my mom's very sensitive. So I'm not even really sure. They never got married. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So it was just kind of like, we're not going to do this anymore.
Yeah. Blake, what you want to dig into some of Katie's background and relationships? And
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the stuff we kind of talked about, because I hang around a lot of guys that are heavy drinkers, and then, when the topic comes up of, you don't drink, people are kind of, it's a way for that conversation to start. And I think you said something along the lines of like, you have a lot of friends, but you also don't, am I right?
Oh, yes.
You
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
a lot of friends, but you also don't have
Yes.
people that you really, confide in. Like, do you think that's based on, seeing the dynamic between your mom and your dad, and or what do you kind of attribute that to?
Multiple things. I'm really particular about who I hang around, and so on Instagram I only follow a certain amount of people, and that's by choice, because I don't want to expose myself to like bad news or bad energy or people who kind of are drama. So while I'm really social and I'm really friendly with a lot of people, and if I'm in a different state, I can call and always like go have party friends, but there's only certain people who I allow like into my space. And so maybe having that tougher childhood made me a little bit more selective on who I can trust and feel comfortable and safe with.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to the safety, right, Todd?
yeah. Did you listen to the laundry list when we were reading those?
I did.
Could you identify with some of those?
Let's take a look here. I could identify with some of
When
them.
I first read those, I was like, wow, they're telling my story. I think I had like 9 of them.
I think the first one that I see most commonly is we stay in bad relationships because not only isn't it that we don't want to be alone, we don't want to feel abandoned, even if it's us that wants to leave.
Yes.
Right. So I don't know, maybe you can speak to staying in a relationship longer than you should have. And
Yeah. The abandonment one, I think, is definitely what stood out to me. When I was 16, just to like further explain my childhood, my mom actually left our family. So I have that abandonment wound, which was even harder because she knew that my dad was really not nice. And like we had CPS coming in and out of our house when we were younger because of him.
Did she tell you she was leaving, or she just like left?
She just called one day on the phone and just said, I was living in California, and she just said, I'm moving to Vermont with a man that I met. And I just hung up the phone and didn't talk to her for like 2 years.
Do you remember how you felt when she called you?
Oh my gosh, devastated. I was laying on the couch, like the biggest pit in my stomach. And then I was at a Catholic school that year. Because of it, I flunked out. I stopped playing sports. And then I didn't really go to college after that, and it changed me.
So how did you change the way you feel? Because you got to do something to get rid of that pit in your stomach, right? Did you find alcohol? Did you find boys? Did you find something?
I had an amazing boyfriend that I met right after that happened. He was my first boyfriend ever, and we were together for 6 years.
Wow,
And
6 years.
Yes. So I was 16, and so I was with him until like through high school and college. So he was
Wow.
amazing. So he really got me through it, and he gave me somebody to like rely on, and
He made you feel safe.
very safe and supported. And then the gym also. So I'd go every single day, and it gave me a place to be and some structure and music that I could listen to, and I could be angry and not have to talk to people.
I always say my workouts are my best therapist. It's like I would go crazy without working out.
Yeah.
Depressed, sad, the mind, the ruminating mind, and that workouts are amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
Hitting that dopamine.
Get
You
a
should
little
try
high
it,
going.
Charles.
I should.
So, Charles, you want to ask K-Dub some questions?
I do. So one of the things that I find fascinating, okay, so Todd mentioned it a little bit. One of the things that's changed dramatically for all of us is the way that we interact with humans with the invent of this thing. The way that we interact with humans is completely changed. For example, you have 800,000 people that are able to follow your life and ultimately have some form of a relationship in some way with you, some form of way to engage with you, right? So with that, we talked on the last episode, I think with Alex, which is at any point I can change the way I feel. Like before we were talking about porn, right? Before it required great acts required to do that, right? Especially if you're in a relationship. You have to go find the hidden VCR.
Right.
You have to make sure the door's locked and
Right.
no one's coming home. And you have to
Right.
put that thing in. It's a whole deal. Now it's right there. I
your
can get that
phone,
faster than I can
laptop.
find your
Yeah.
phone number,
Right.
Todd. What's Todd's number? I don't know. Let me look. In that same instance, I can disconnect and do that. So my question to you is, I imagine that a majority of guys are reaching out to you every day, right? And they're saying, hey, I love you, you're beautiful, you're gorgeous. And it's based solely on what we see on this 6 inches, right? And I know that you go to great lengths, I imagine. I was just looking through a little bit. You've taken some wonderful photos from some wonderful places that we just discussed. So ultimately the question is, today, even the dating apps, right? I just got on one, right? And I'm basing whether or not I'm interested in this girl, what I see on this 6 inches here. So what is it like for you to, I'm sure your sole source of communication or finding someone probably not very difficult, having them based solely on what they see of you. Do you have any interaction with that? Is there any depth to that?
Yeah, I like it because I can totally curate how people perceive me, and I can put my best foot forward. I don't think I've had a really bad experience with it. I like it. I like when people find my Instagram and they can kind of see more about my life. It used to be a little bit more, I don't want to say raunchy. It used to be more not accurate representation of me, but lately I like it.
Do you feel safe all the time? Because
No.
you don't.
No, like if I'm in Old Town and I want to leave and my friends want to stay, I don't feel comfortable calling an Uber and going and finding it walking or things like that. In my own home, I feel safe. I don't feel like I have stalkers, but in public settings when people recognize me, I feel a little.
So you don't feel, and I've watched a lot of Law and Order. I mean, I'm a law and order junkie.
SVU, I love SVU.
Yeah, SVU. So it's like, have you had a stalker?
At my old complex, I lived in like a loft in a really nice shopping area, so above the shops. And the parking garage for our apartment was underground just because they had those shops in the middle. And my neighbor, who was a married man with a baby, would leave notes, post-its on my car of like John Legend songs. He would watch me on his Ring camera and notice when I would carry boxes saying, "Are you moving? I'm so sad." Communicate me through
And did he find you on Instagram, or he met you by being the neighbor?
being the neighbor.
Okay. And he obviously found you on Instagram, I would imagine.
If he did it, I'm not aware.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't look through all my followers, so.
Yeah, 800,000, that would take you a couple years.
Yeah.
So, of the past relationships, has it been, I want to go find someone, I'm going to go out to the bar, or I'm going to go out socially and wait for the cool guy or some guy to approach me? Like, so let's talk about the last relationship, or the one that you're in now.
Mm-hmm.
Was it someone that reached out to you via your Instagram platform, or was it someone that came and grabbed you and said, "Hey, I think you're pretty"?
He was a guy who reached out to me.
In person, alive and real?
No, on the
Okay.
internet. Yeah,
All right.
on the internet.
Hey, that's how it all is now these
Yes.
days. All right,
And
so
so
tell us about
how did he
that.
approach you? Yeah.
He just DM'd me and he said hi. And I had already known who he was because I used to see his friend. But that's okay. But I used to see his friend, so I knew of him. And he reached out to me, and I was already fond of him. So
Okay, is that still going?
no.
Okay.
How long did it last?
Sad. About 9 months, but it wasn't progressing how I wanted. So I kind of, another thing with relationships is I get like that safety. So I wasn't feeling like I was safe. So I just cut it off really fast, impulsively.
Do you worry about getting hurt when you're in a relationship and you're not feeling safe? Like, do you worry like, oh, he's cheating on me, he doesn't like me?
No, it's more the like intrusive thoughts that, because when I was younger, my dad would say really hurtful things. Like he would say to my friends, like, "Look at her. Why would you be friends with a pathetic person like her? She's so miserable." ABC. So I kind of hear those thoughts when I'm with a guy. I kind of hear like, well, why would he even like me?
Okay, so you're not good enough. Like, why would
Yeah.
he like me? Why would he be attracted to me? Why would he want to be in a relationship with me?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that amazing? Like, you have 800,000 followers and you feel like you are not good enough to attract a man that is interested in you and clearly
Yeah.
made an attempt to like create a relationship with you.
Yeah.
And then we still don't believe it.
She has 800,000 people telling her that she's beautiful. It's like what we were just talking about with Alex. And here, when we're alone, we don't feel like we're good enough.
Right.
We don't feel like we're pretty
And that's
enough.
why it's an inside job
100%.
because it doesn't matter if you have 8 million followers, 800,000 or
90
like
billion.
me, 8, you know,
Right.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's like an inside job that we have to believe it. And I was talking to my wife this morning about how I still do mantras. I still look in the mirror and tell myself, like, you're an amazing man. You're full of love. You're a child of God. You are everything I've ever dreamed about, Todd. And I got to do that so I believe it. Because if I don't, I'll have those childhood memories of things, horrible things that my friends and family said to me that I start believing. Like, you're never going to amount to anything. You're not good enough. You're not going to get into college. You'll never get a job. Like, those ruminating thoughts will come back unless I do some kind of work to like put a impediment between me and those horrible false beliefs.
I've been listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza a lot.
He's great.
Yes, and so kind of like not being a product of your habitual patterns, I think it is, and so helping your subconscious be like, that's not true, and getting into a new pattern, a new cycle.
So how long ago did this relationship end?
In June.
In June. Do you like look back on it and try to like learn from the relationship and like, what can I do better next time? Like, so like when I got divorced, which was extremely painful for me after 22 years of marriage, I made a list of what I wanted in a woman. I made a list. Do you have a list?
Wait, that's so crazy. I wrote one last night, and I told myself I'm gonna leave it with me every day so that I can be aware of what I want and not settle for anything less.
Are you
I
willing to share-
literally have a list.
Are you willing to share some of those
Of
with
course,
with-
I could share all of them.
Please. Let's see
Do
if you meet any of them, Charles.
Do you want me to
Yeah,
read them?
please.
Okay, so it says characteristics of my boyfriend. It
love
says
this.
sweet, kind, loyal, protective, adores me, masculine, accepting, loves to kiss me, always holds my hand, wants kids, tall, handsome, athletic, is a provider, chivalrous, adventurous, understanding, cozy. It's kind of a long list.
No, it's great.
Cuddles at night, is career focused, hardworking, successful, family oriented, has manners, is gentle, and loves to watch movies.
So she stole that off of my profile description. But it's good that you did that, and thank you for doing that, because if we don't know what we want, we won't get it. And Todd, this is one of the things.
Settle. If we don't know what we want, we'll settle for whoever enters the door.
That's right. And you have said many times the same thing that I experienced, which was, tell me what you like about your spouse. And it's like, I don't know, because I went into it not knowing.
Right.
Hot and ready to move in tomorrow.
And that makes me look good.
Yes,
Yeah, and
yes.
willing to cater to my every need.
That's exactly right. And
yeah. So
Won't leave.
won't leave.
it's well, because we barricade them with.
What do you like about your wife? She won't leave.
Yeah, because she can't, because the car, the credit card, the house, everything that,
Yeah,
I made her quit her job.
It's amazing how when I put the list together, my current wife hit every box except for I didn't want kids. I already have a 21 and
turned you.
23-year-old, and she turned me.
She turned you.
She turned me, and we're trying to have kids now. But
Congrats, that's awesome.
thank you. So let's get into how do you think your dad being abusive and creating some of those negative self-talk that we just talked about, how has that impeded you from having a healthy relationship? Because you just experienced that with your 9-month relationship, and how are you going to get over that?
I tried to combat it when it was happening, and I would call my mom a lot and try to explain to her like this overwhelming fear is happening, and the guy that I liked would text me or be so nice to me, and these thoughts would be like, get away from me, stop talking. It was almost like, you don't mean it, go, you're hurting me, you're lying. So it's impacted me in that way where I can't believe them, or like.
So he would do nice things or say nice things, and you wouldn't believe him. Mm-hmm. You'd be like, you're lying.
I wouldn't ever say that, but
you were thinking
internally
that.
it was like, why would he say that? Or he would message me in the morning, and I'd wake up and say, stop talking to me. It was so horrible. Yeah.
And did you see your father a little bit in that, in some of your thoughts and responses?
Oh, everything. Yeah. And
Isn't it amazing how it's so hard not to become your parents in some form or fashion?
Mm-hmm. And the closer he would get to me, the louder the voice would be in my head. So I wanted to push him away to kind of settle myself.
Yeah. Blake, what do you think about that?
I think it's I do it. I think the self-talk, and I can create a problem out of nothing. And if I told you, the craziness that's going on in my head, you guys would look at me like, what are you talking about? Like, you how do you go from A to Z and end up with that conclusion?
What planet are you from?
What are you doing? I think in any relationship, I think right now and I would love to kind of hear your thoughts with like influencers and everyone putting a certain side on social media, how like you can have all this likes and everyone thinks you're so cool, but yet you're on the inside, you're like struggling with, taking compliments. And I can't even imagine the amount of people that reach out to you and say, hey, I think you're so beautiful and all this stuff. And is it like, do you become numb to it?
Yeah.
Like you're because you're saying like your boyfriend at the time is paying you compliments and you don't think it's real.
Right. Yeah. On Instagram, I'll read a message and, oh, you're so beautiful, whatever their compliment is, which is really nice. But it's almost like it becomes like fake. Like they like a picture, but it becomes like, well, you don't even know me. How could you say that? So yeah, it just feels very fake and like surface level.
Yeah.
But you have to sort of play along, right? Because you're in the business of being an influencer. So you can't ignore.
I do.
You ignore all these comments?
I don't open the DMs. I don't.
You definitely don't respond.
I definitely don't respond. I'll respond if somebody like is inquisitive or like has a really like thought-provoking comment on the DMs. Then I'll reply and like want to have a conversation.
But you're not applying to like the physicality compliments, like the oh my God, your butt looked great in that picture or whatever. You're
Never.
okay. So do you have someone that screens that, or do you?
No, it's just my account.
Just you.
And I use it more of like a way of expression. So like I love to create little like video snippets with like a song, and it's just like like how I express myself rather than like a place to get compliments.
Yeah.
So when I look at, and you do a great job on your Instagram, I looked at it and it was very well done. And
I sent a
very
DM and
tasteful.
realized I just wasted a DM.
You know, the number 2 laundry list trait is we became approval seekers and lost our identity in the process. I know when I'm extremely active on social media, I find myself becoming an approval seeker. Look how great my family is. I remember when I got divorced, everybody's like, Todd, I thought you were the happiest man alive, married with kids, and because that's the way I presented it on social media. Every picture was us smiling. Every picture was us like taking a trip to some exotic place and getting awards and private jets, and we were like smiling all the time, and no one had an idea what was going on behind closed doors. And it was actually, you know, the marriage was actually pretty good, but there was a lot missing from it too. And I think I always wanted to portray that approval seeker attitude. Like I want people to think I got it all figured out. Like you said, as long as I got a hot wife and people think I'm cool, I'm done, right? Yeah. I'm done. And it's like, that's super important. But then when you dig down, it's like, wait, how do I really feel on a daily basis? I mean, do you ever get that where you're finding you're trying to be an approval seeker to your 800,000 likes or followers, or do you feel like you're being completely authentic of who you are? And some people might like it and some people may not, or not just on Instagram, on social media, but in the real life. Do you find yourself like, if you give a compliment, you get one, or if you get one, you have to give one back, you know?
Not so much. I'm pretty open with my followers about like my mental health. So when I left LA, I was pretty open with everyone. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to give myself a couple months to like not know and to just be and like surround myself with people that love me and care about me. So I think in that way I was pretty open, but I never like post videos of myself crying. And then I definitely like, I really like to sit like in the best seats possible because I like to, you know, at like sporting events. So like in an approval seeking way, if I'm not in the best seat, then what's the point of going? Because I want to portray like whatever that portrays. So in that way, yeah.
So if I give you tickets to the Cardinal game and it's the top row at the very top of the stadium, you may not go.
I would not go. Like I've a guy on the Dodgers one time gave me like the family seating, and I went to the game, but I bought my own ticket so that I could sit behind home plate.
Because the family tickets weren't.
We're
that
like
close.
on second level club. Yeah.
Right.
It's just so in that way, like that's my version of it.
Right. I always wanted people to think I was worth 15 to 20 times more than I really am. It's like taking pictures of private jets that I chartered and was throwing up over the bill. And like, oh, that's Todd's jet. You know, it's like, that's Todd's jet. Like taking pictures of like my dog and my wife in their jet. And it's like, yeah, you're chartering that jet and you can't even afford the charter, but you do it because you want to make people think that you're successful. And you know, I did that for years, and I probably still do it. You know, I just don't realize it as much. But it's, I mean, don't you think like social media and the American pop culture has like made us into like looking the best we possibly can look?
Mm-hmm. With the whole like I don't have a BBL, but like the whole like BBL became popular, so people are injecting themselves or. Now a
Brazilian butt lift, Charles. I know you
Oh yeah,
You could tell it was confused.
yeah, where they get like a small waist and a big butt. So yeah, it's changed the beauty standard, and it's created a really high standard of if you're not beautiful, then you're not going to get followers or likes, and you kind of aren't worth as much.
My wife talked a lot about body dysmorphia on the last episode, and she really struggles with that. And she's 5'2" and like 115 pounds and works out like a crazy person. And she's got an incredible body, but she still thinks she won't compare to that. She's not good enough. Mm-hmm. And all these other women have it going on, and she doesn't. and she believes it because she keeps playing these beliefs in her mind.
And it's hard to see the, not competition, but it's hard to see all the other people in front of you like, oh, wow, well, I guess my legs aren't that skinny compared to hers. Or there's so many different people in front of you that, how do you measure up?
So how do you get out of that? Like, you're going around the world with these other influencers and these other Instagram girls that are like, I'm sure beautiful. And it's like, do you find yourself comparing and like despairing?
Oh, yeah. Like, it was right after COVID, and I went to Antigua down near the Bahamas, and I looked at my friend and I said, like, I'm the biggest. I'm not big by any means, and even if you are, it doesn't matter. Just my internal thought in that moment was like, I think I'm the biggest girl here right now, and I didn't want to be in any of the photos. I didn't want to be in the photo shoots, which I was there for. So yes, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I love when my wife says it all, and she says it all the time. Like, when I compare, I despair, and I do it. Like you mentioned, sitting in good seats. Like, we have a joke around here. Like, I have floor seats for the Suns, and a lot of times I don't want to go because I feel like shit after the game. And everyone's like, "Why do you feel like shit?" I go, "Because I'm comparing myself to all these other guys on the floor that have more money, bigger boats, bigger houses, more toys, more power, better titles." And I'm like, I feel like a loser. So I have that same compare despair.
That's
It's
so
just,
interesting.
it's in like business, education, rank, money. And a lot of times I won't even watch the game. I'm just looking around like, oh, there's so-and-so, and there's so-and-so, and there's so-and-so.
Yeah,
And
he just sold his
Really?
company for $450
yeah, he just sold his company
million,
to Google. That guy just, just took his company public. And then I'm just like going around like, God, I haven't done anything. I might as well just kill myself.
Oh my!
Yeah.
I've never thought of that.
Yeah. So for me, that's my compare and despair. I mean, we talked on 2 episodes ago about me being a sex symbol, but we kind of got rid of that pretty quickly.
You're the funny guy, Todd. You're the funny guy.
Yeah, I think the compare and despair is, I've recently been around a guy who's, I said, again, trying to stop that. He's probably worth $2 billion, and he goes around guys that are worth 10 to 100 times more than he is, and he does that same thing. So it's like
It never
no matter
ends.
and no matter
It
how
never
high you
ends.
climb up on that ladder, there's always going to be someone that's richer than you, more successful, if you're not okay with your internally. And I would love to hear from you, Katie, like with these girls that you're going on these trips with, is everybody insecure and comparing themselves? And like,
Yeah, is the girl
No.
that's 90 pounds wishing, oh, I'm so skinny and anorexic.
or do,
I
No.
or
wish
do
I
you not
was-
know because you don't know her on that level? Like maybe she's like insecure that her, arms aren't as toned, or what,
Does everyone
'cause
have their thing?
Does everyone have their thing? Do you think?
No. Well, the girls that I've gone with, they feel the most confident in that environment. So like in their bikini, they feel the most, as opposed in a I don't know, a library or something completely opposite. They would feel out of place and maybe like, oh gosh, I don't know all these words, or
I don't know how to read. Or
yeah,
like-
something. But that's their element, and that's what they feel best doing. So in that environment, they actually feel very confident.
what do you feel most confident, best doing?
Talking about sports, being at sports games, stuff like that. Like I really know the lingo, and I fall into the category of like looking good in a bikini. So I go on the trips, and I'm really social, so they like having me there. But that's not my like bread and butter.
Yeah. Do you, what kind of work do you do so you don't have those false beliefs and that negative self-talk? Like, what do you meditate? Do you pray? Do you do gratitude lists? What do you do to try to, stay in that positive, self-loving attitude?
I listen to a lot of like mentors and coaches that I found. A lot of really good ones are on TikTok, and they offer like group coaching or like a Facebook group that you can be a part of. And so I listen to their videos throughout the day about your subconscious beliefs about yourself and how you can combat them, and how saying affirmations a lot will help. And then I listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza, who talks about the science, so you can kind of understand more. And then I really love to learn about the science behind our body and how we're a magnet, and how you can kind of create your reality. So instead of getting stuck in that bad feeling or those negative thoughts, you can kind of create in this moment and go forward.
The basic principles of metaphysics.
Yes.
I am what I believe, and I am what I do and say. I love that. Like, the basic premise of like a vision board is like, this is what my life to look like, and I got to look at it every day and think it, believe it. And that's why I do the mantras, because when I do the mantras, I feel better about myself. When I work out and I look in the mirror and I have a positive intention during that class, I feel better about myself. And it's like little small steps and create a great life, right? Instead of trying to compare yourself and I'm not good enough and people aren't going to like me, the boy's going to leave, the followers are going to dump me, all that horrible fear-based stuff.
Yes.
So you're doing something new here, right? So last relationship, 9 months ended. Now you have something new, the list, which is in the safest possible place where we can put things these days, which is attached to our phones.
Can't lose your phone.
No one does, right? So it's in the safest place possible. What are you going to do different now? Obviously, starting with the list. So how are you going to ensure that you've got someone on that list? Question here. So first part, second date, first date. If he already crosses off some of those things, is it over?
I'm pretty
Are these
particular.
non-negotiables?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're pretty non-negotiable. I'm really particular about like who I even like talk to, so it might not even get to a date. Just again with that safety and that trust, and it's hard for me to let somebody in. So, but what was your question? How would I get somebody like that, or how will I behave
Your just
differently?
overall approach, right? Because one of the things that we really try to accomplish here is a different approach to the way that we engage with others, friends and lovers, right? Potential lovers. So you have something new here. What's going to be different than what you've done before in the past? And if they don't have that, are you going to settle? Are you going to sacrifice? Or are you going to wipe them off? Because I can say personally, I have all of those things for you right here. But let's just say when you set out there,
It's all relative, though.
it is all relative.
I think it's more about like how I feel about myself when I meet that person. So like I was just trying to visualize with that list of like maybe to manifest them towards me. But what I'm mainly working on is how I will feel about myself when I do meet that person, and so that I feel good enough in those core beliefs that like I deserve to be with them and that they'll stay and that they'll find me worthwhile.
Do you have a belief in God?
I went to Catholic school for 8 years. I don't know if I like organized religion, but I like I believe in a higher power.
So you believe in a higher power.
Yeah.
So do you believe like if you just become the best possible version of yourself you can become and are a good person, like great things are in your future?
Yes.
Like the metaphysics, the vision board, the karma, the karmic action.
Yes.
You believe like if I could just become the best version of Katie, that great things are in store in my future.
I do believe that. And then I also listen to people who practice that you already are good enough without all those things. So I struggle between that concept as well.
But if you're lying, cheating, stealing every day, I think you're going to feel bad about yourself, and you're going to some horrible things are going to happen in your future.
Yes.
Right? So it's like I think you have to have a clean conscience. I think you have to like look in the mirror and be like, yes, I love you.
Yes. And accept yourself and be proud of who you are and have confidence in like what you stand for and what you represent.
So that list, are you able to say no? You are?
I haven't, like before this guy, I've been single for almost like 3.5 years. So
Single for 3.5 years?
Yeah. I mean, dating, but not boyfriend. So.
And when guys try to take it to the next level, how do you let them know that you're not interested in that?
I don't even participate. I just don't participate.
Because I can tell you, me, Charles, and Blake, we're not good enders. We're really good starters. Yeah. We always say there's the first date, second date's a U-Haul.
Really?
You're moving in. You're moving in.
You're moving in. Yeah, we want to just nail that down. Like you're not going anywhere. We're taking hostages.
It takes a lot for me to even like somebody, so
yeah.
It takes a lot.
Okay, so you wouldn't have worked for one of us.
It's not for everyone, Todd.
Yeah.
It's a special type of person.
Well, yeah, we only have a few minutes left, but Charles, Blake, anything else you want to get into with K-Dub?
No, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on and being honest and vulnerable and hopefully we made you feel safe. So that's good.
I love that we were just talking about the list and that you had
Yeah, it
that
comes
list.
right up.
Yeah.
It's like you already got the list.
It's
So
like, there's no coincidences. That was,
That was great. Pulled it right out of
Yeah.
her.
it's like almost like we planned it, right? We didn't.
We're not that clever.
We're not that smart.
yeah, I had mine on my notes on my phone, and I remember I'm like, oh, I forgot a few when I was on a date. So I had to go in the bathroom and look. I'm like, oh, that's right. Okay. I'm going to go back. Yeah. But thanks for coming on. We're going to check back with you probably in like 6 or 9 months and see how you're doing. And welcome
Cool.
to Arizona. And
Thank you.
we wish you the best of luck.
Cool. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Thanks. We'll see you next week on The Laundry List. Have a great week and be nice to my friend today.